Hello and welcome to the theater. Today we'll be performing a skittering from upstairs. The librarian hums a small tune, idly reading a book that must weigh at least a pound. A small sign in front of him reads, "Happy Halloween," though the library isn't decorated in the slightest. The haunted atmosphere is enough to keep anyone away most of the year, but when the fall season comes around, it's like people suddenly start believing in ghosts for a quarter of their lives and come in to test the place. Although he feels at home, it's admittedly rather creepy. Spiderwebs hang from corners and above shelves, books sometimes find their ways onto strange places, and both the furniture and building are older than time, it seems. All of them have their reasons. The spiders keep out the flies and mosquitoes, and he's rather sensitive to mosquito bites. He's rather harebrained at times and leaves books out he meant to reshelf on a desk, sometimes open, but together, out of context, they tell a story. Said story seems to be the interest of 3 young children today. They're no older than 14 apiece, the youngest being 10. All 3 proudly boast they want to go on a tour of the place. So the librarian smiles and agrees and leads them through the aisles. It's a rather expansive place. First is the romance section, split first into the gender of the main couple and then the author. The kids predictably make fun of this, laughing to themselves about immature jokes. Thankfully, none of them notice his favorite, bitten on a full moon, sitting out at a table. Actually, why is that one sitting out on a table? It wasn't yesterday, and he knows he hasn't read it recently, because he's been meaning to. Regardless, they move on, quickly getting through without too much fuss. The first floor is remarkably less spooky than the second, as the ceiling is simply wood and the old chandeliers, which are cleaned regularly. The stone walls, too, hold better here, and because some of the old servants' quarters that he still hasn't renovated, some of the walls are thick, warm oak. The carpet is thick and recent, too. Across from the romance section is high fantasy, in which the 12-year-old girl picks up a book she wants to check out. He'd protest about a child taking such material, but he recognizes the book, and it's honestly such disappointing garbage he'd be fine with her stealing it permanently. The kids talk about it amongst themselves for a while, making fun of the book she picked while she vehemently defends her decision, arguing that high fantasy is actually a very adult thing, because it's not all about childish things like candy and superheroes. Her friend argues with a smirk that a war hero and a superhero are the same concept. They're literally both heroes, duh, and the two of them snap back and forth on who's more or less mature. A skittering passes by on the floor above. He hears it clear as day, the way what sounds like talent swish across the floor. The children hear it and huddle together. "What was that?" "Might be the Roomba," he says. "Sounds weird on the floor sometimes." "You have a Roomba in here? Do I look like I want to vacuum the entire place by myself?" The kids collectively shrug, so he takes this opportunity to move the tour along. Since fantasy and romance are so popular and so easy to scout for new books, the rest of the sections are all on the second floor. The main banister, rich and warm as it is, marks the change between modernized but classic and decrepit but perfectly functional. The wood is aged, warped ever so slightly here and there. A stair is creaky and catches one of the boys off guard. It has no carpet on the first floor, but gains one on the second, transitioning from the earlier dark red to a pitch black up here. It's much fluffier, but sparingly used, in the rooms only, not the halls, which are made of rather sleek wood. The ceiling is also wood here, but much more run down. Water damage stains are hidden only by the scratches and divots, sometimes with an attempt to cover that up with a white lacy thing none of the children can identify. The skittering is generally omnipresent in the halls, though much quieter. In the rooms, he knows from experience you can't hear it. "Maybe it's a bunch of giant centipedes," one of the children says to the other. They are then promptly told to shut up, he can hear you, as they all turn to him for more of the tour. He suppresses a laugh, because they all look so serious about something that isn't, and leads them into the next section. Considering the location, it makes sense that the juvenile section is the smallest. There's 3 or 4 shelves of children's books, and usually they're in disarray, because he hates dealing with them. At least they're sorted by thickness first, authors second. If he had to deal with those thin, hard-to-manage, easy-reader books, are they even? In between 2 larger ones, he might kill someone. The YA section he's proud of, even if it's not his forte. Only books of actual merit and value are stored here, and though YA isn't a genre known for its artistic mastery, there's certainly good gems hidden throughout. Because of his decisions, admittedly, most of the 3 romance shelves are queer, but it's his private library, so he gets to pick and choose. Honestly, he didn't even want the children's section. One of the boys decides to look through some of the YA before they leave, and so everyone's milling about while he waits by the door. Then a girl yelps, "There was something looking at me!" When he comes over to investigate, she's slightly shaking and pointing at the ceiling. Sure enough, there's a tiny hole, just enough that you might see someone's pupil staring at you through it if you were looking for it, but there's nothing up there at the moment. Are you sure? It's pretty dark up there, but I saw someone's eye. I don't think it was someone, she whispers. Something. Predictably, none of her friends believe her, but the librarian frowns as they all make fun of her for being wrong. I've heard that once or twice, he says, but I've never seen it myself. I'll have to look up there. This shocks the rest of the children, enough that they ask to please just get on with the tour and continue through. He decides that he'll skip the room next down the hall, because it's specifically reserved for content unsafe for kids. He thought it was funny putting those two rooms in the same hallway, because of the people who might pass each other. So he leads them away into the pure fiction room. A shadow appears under the door just as he opens it. One of the kids points, and they all watch as that shadow appears through the open door. A creature stares back at them. Something like a centaur of a spider. It's got humanoid upper body with 6 eyes and a wicked grin, 3 arms and 3 more on its spider-like body. It rumbles a laugh. All the children run screaming down the steps. The librarian, however, does not. The Spider-Man thing's laugh goes from a rumbling to a giggle, much more high-pitched. Oh, they run! Of course they did. You're terrifying to a child. What about you? What kind of question is that? The spider laughs, moving closer. The skittering is much louder and obvious when he's on the same floor, legs quick and nimble as 2 of his hands come to the librarian's hips. Maybe you're in danger. What do you think? I think spiders have poisonous fangs. Do they now? Yes, he says, baring his fangs. Would you like to find out? I think I'd like to taste poison, he says, for it would make love ever more sweet. You're such a sap, the spider replies, but kisses him anyway.